Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I greatly appreciate it. Dr. Schweitzer, I'm going to ask you some questions, but a lot of the witnesses might be able to, including Ms. Bradbury, really ought to be paying attention because I got some ideas. I'm a big believer in all of the above. I'm also a big believer in technology. One of my big concerns has been is that we are putting so many of our eggs into one basket. There's a few eggs in the fossil fuel basket, but I've been advocating that we have parity between research dollars for fossil fuel and renewables because we need both of them. Would you agree with that?
In as much as we would agree that the best way to subsidize all of the above is to subsidize nothing. Leave it up to a free economy where investors, shareholders are free to invest.
And I can appreciate that, but in reality, the government is going to have to fund some of the research. Then we can let the private players go and do what they need to do. But you're right, private players will play a part in this, and that's why I brought this up, is because I heard one of my colleagues say we're going to put a carbon tax, and she was hoping we would, some of us on this side of the aisle would agree, and I immediately went no, put a carbon tax on the producers. The problem is, as Ms. Bradbury pointed out, if you put a tax, you would agree with this, wouldn't you, Dr. Schweitzer? If you put a tax on the producers, they're just going to pass that tax on to the end user, which is our manufacturers and our citizens. Isn't that true?
Precisely. It hurts everybody. I'm very concerned about how our country seems to be moving from a free economy to a command economy. A command economy with one command after another coming out on this kind of a tax, this kind of a subsidy, this kind of a mandate, and that we seem to be losing faith in our economic and political freedom that created this great country.
And you make a good point, and the reason I get excited about this is that I've come from coal-producing Appalachia. We also have natural gas. We don't have as much as Marcellus and Utica, or we have as much, but it's harder to get to. It's deeper. But one of our big sources that has been flushed away for years is methane in the mines. And now we have a company that has figured out a way to get the methane out of the mine straight from the air. They've got the technology. They've got a whole division working on it that's done it, and they're doing it in Buchanan No. 1, which is a metallurgical coal mine in my district that has a footprint so that people back home can understand. It has an underground footprint bigger than the city of D.C. And they've just decided they're going to open up a whole new area. While it's not quite as high a concentration of the metallurgical coal, it's still high enough to make it profitable. And they've combined with working with a different company to take straight out of the air inside the mine, suck all the methane up, and the end result, they believe, will be profit.
Absolutely. What is the best way to clean up the environment than to make things profitable? Also, the canaries in a coal mine would appreciate getting the methane out of there.
Yeah, we haven't used canaries in a long time, but yes, you're right. Everybody appreciates getting that methane out. Ms. Bradbury, doesn't that sound a whole lot more exciting that maybe we put, if we're going to put dollars in, and Dr. Schweitzer thinks maybe we ought not, but if we're going to put dollars in, isn't it a whole lot more exciting to find ways to solve the problem instead of shutting down American industry or making the cost higher for people in my district to be able to heat their homes?
Mr. Griffith, I think this is a great question, and I think you're exactly right. I think given, growing global energy demand is well established. We've talked a lot about all of the above energy, and I support all of the above energy. I would actually suggest amending that to say best of the above energy. And what you're describing is inclusive of all forms of energy, but in better forms than we've used it traditionally. So I think we need best of all forms of energy as opposed to government policies that pick winners and losers.
Yeah, we don't want to pick winners and losers, and we also don't want to increase costs. That has been our policy for the last 30 years, with a few exceptions. We have decided that we're just going to make the costs go higher. And let me tell you who that affects. I represent a district with take-home pay that's 409th out of 435 congressional districts in the United States. You're not going to affect my family directly. I mean, it may hurt us a little bit, but we're going to be okay. Who you're hurting are those folks on the front lines who are struggling, the working to make a living and are struggling to make ends meet, and who may not qualify for all these programs that my friends on the left would like to say we'd have the programs take care of. Dr. Gotti, my time is up, but maybe as a sidebar, I can get your reactions to some of the things I've said, and I have to yield back at this point and let this meeting come to a close, but I do love the accent. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back, and